What up, YouTube? Webhead Mike here, and continuing the Zenkaikon LARP coverage, we come to the end of day 1, which was an event called Key of the Speed. It was given the tags RP Heavy and Darker Themes. And once you get further along, it's very evident why. It opened up with all of us who randomly decided to be there. Well, it wasn't quite random. Everyone who was there had to pick one gem out of a bag. And if it was one particular gem, you went to one group, and another gem, you went to another one. And this was important later. What happened in the group I was in was we were all taken before this great sun that began saying to us, "You are the people who have 1,000 enemies. You are to be known as digger, runner, giver of a swift warning. And so long as you have yourself full of tricks and cunning, your people will never be destroyed." Now, I heard that, many other people in the group heard that, and we all either said, Frith, Watership Down, Era Frera. We all know Watership Down, apparently. So there was, and that was really nice because that's not something I hear brought up too often, and it really should be a lot more prominent. And it's also kind of surprising because there was a Netflix re-edit of it that came out not too long ago, and it was pretty darn solid. I liked all the voice casting that went into it. It had more time to go into everything that was happening, but still, the original has its very unique art style, and I'll always be very attached to it. Now, in this, we did not have to worry about our character sheets. All we had to worry about was a few stats in hand, and everything else was roleplay. And I thought that was really a nifty way to make sure playthrough was cut down, really efficient, because a common problem I saw happening in many of these RP sessions is there's so many people, it's hard to make a proper story around this that doesn't just devolve into and then, and then, and then. And I certainly feel for the GMs because these are massive groups, like 11 people in a group at once. And then in this group, there were maybe 35 people at most. So again, the group I was in, we then suddenly felt transformed into rabbits. Our legs became stronger, our hands became a little bit more hoofed, our ears became longer, and we heard more, and our tail became a cotton ball. And then suddenly Frith went away, and then we were left in darkness. And this is when I noticed that the GM, whenever we were saying or doing something, would often communicate something on Discord. Now, of course, as a player, though, I made sure to differentiate player knowledge, character knowledge. Suzaku doesn't know that. Suzaku, the bunny, doesn't know that. So eventually, we began trying to find ways to find each other. It ended up having a few people make a little bit too much noise, and that's when the Predators, the other group, came into play. And this is when we had to start fighting or running and hiding from them. And this is when we saw many fine characters, such as Alexander Armstrong from Full Metal Alchemist. He was involved in this too, and he got hit pretty darn bad. And every single one of us was either trying to help him or figure out a way to get away from these predators. And that's when I decided to begin digging. I told the GM specifically, I begin to test the ground beneath my feet. Does it yield? And that's when she said, yes. Matter of fact, the ground is very easily diggable for you. And then after a few moments went by, I was digging to the point where my butt was hanging out, and that's when everyone saw the flash of my white tail. And that was how we as rabbits were supposed to communicate with one another so as not to attract predators, because we are able to pick up on this cotton flash, but the predators are not. Sure, we could call out, stomp our feet, but everyone else would know where we were. However, the flash of cotton really is only specific to us, and if the predators did notice it, it would just dazzle them. Sadly, a number of our group did not catch on to that, and I can't blame them because maybe they didn't know Watership Down. Maybe they were really getting caught up in the role play. I know I certainly was. But again, I had to think, okay, Suzaku is Suzaku, but not Suzaku. Suzaku is Bunny Suzaku. How would Bunny Suzaku do? Okay, well, he can't help Alexander Armstrong. He's too far away to make any difference. He can't run to him fast enough. So what he can do is begin signaling with Jinbei, who's right next to him, who's also a bunny. Oddly enough, the one character who didn't have to change that much was Judy Hopps. I'll let you sit on that. Now, the moment I began digging real well, that's when Jinbei began dipping his head into the hole and moving around, dipping his head back up, and doing that over and over and over and over again. So people began seeing an intermittent flash indicating they should go here. Suzaku has found a way, let's go. And sure enough, we did. Eventually we had 2 tunnel systems dug and linked with each other. But sadly, Alexander Louis Armstrong died by the predators. We then had to say our goodbyes to him, and then, unbeknownst to us, he went off to join the predators and attack us. And that was when they began realizing coordinated efforts will screw us. So if the predators want to succeed against the bunnies, they need to team up. So we had hawks and wolves doing a nasty coordination between each other. But thankfully, just as soon as they realized that, we had already had our tunnel system dug. The only downside was, I then heard Jinbei was in trouble. And we were at the tail end of the encounter, and that's when I said, no, not one more, we're all gonna go. And then I saw another person, there was Judy Hopps, Jinbei, and myself, all rushing to go save Jinbei. Well, no, wait. Right, Jinbei was being held by 2 predators, so Judy Hopps and myself were the first to go off and go and help him. And then we told the GM our stats, and then she said, sadly, you guys are not able to save him. The numbers are just too far out of your favor. And that's when we retreated back down ground, and then I decided to begin saying, my heart has joined the 1,000, for my friends stopped running today. Armstrong, Jinbei were their names. But thankfully, we didn't have to worry about that because, again, it was a transmutation effect and therefore not permanent, so any death wasn't lingering on to the next carryover. Jinbei and Armstrong, their players wouldn't have to pick up new characters. They could just stick with what they did. Because after all, sure, they took damage, but after they took enough lethal damage, they were then transformed into predators. And oddly enough, I mean, we had some other heavy hitters on our side that were actually able to do some harm to the predators, but I don't think that was the point of the encounter. We were supposed to use our strengths in the best way for our niche and succeed and thrive. At least that's what Suzaku and myself picked up on. But yeah, that was a really nice session. Good use of technology to communicate between 2 different groups really quickly. And a solid end to that. And that's when Frith then gifted to Judy Hopps the brush artifact. So now we have 2 more artifacts in play that will have some significance going forward. What? We don't know exactly, but I'll leave that for the next installment, which would be the Feathery Dust Up. All right, it's been 9.5 minutes. I've gone on long enough. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Am I giving enough flair to these LARPs? Are you interested in them? Let me know. And until next time, Webhead Mike, out.